So we're now aware of how to find images that are gonna work really well with our designs, and we also know how to use them in the context of our designs without actually changing a lot about the image. But what if we want to change things about our image? We can do that just by hitting on this little icon in here that's connected to the fill. As you can see, the fill type is photo. It's not a solid color. It's not any kind of gradient. It's an image. And in here we have a couple of things to play around with. It's not as advanced as some other photo manipulation tools, but you can play around with the exposure, which is just going to increase the amount of light everything is getting. So you can see that it can go from one extreme to the other. And usually when you're working with a lot of these, you don't want to go into extremes. You just want to maybe shift it by a nudge. You can also use arrows on your keyboard to do so. So like maybe we want it just a tad bit darker, and you can do so through here. Contrast is going to make the dark tones darker and the light ones lighter, like this. If you go in the other direction, you're going to see some examples of effects that you're going to see in other photo editing tools. This is probably something very popular that you're going to see on Instagram. But if we go in this other direction, it's really making those darks darker and those lights lighter. When it comes to saturation, it's going to make basically every kind of hue pop a lot more from the photo. Or if you shift it towards the left side, it's just going to make it more and more black and white. So you can see in here, it's very, very vibrant. Again, a lot of this you're probably just going to shift a nudge to make some photos that are maybe desaturated, a little bit more saturated, or if you want to have more of that effect, so all of the colors are a little bit less vibrant, you can move the saturation on this end. But if you ever need a black and white photo, you can also do this. A great thing is you can combine any of these. So when it comes to temperature, increasing it makes it a lot more like yellowish orangish. This one makes it a lot more blue. Tint, I don't think I've ever used a lot. It's moving from cyan tones to more magenta tones. Highlights is just going to make highlights brighter. It's not going to do anything to the darker tones. And and when it comes to, I'm going to shift this because it's getting in the way. Or you can make all of the highlights a little bit darker as well, and then use shadows to make it lighter. And if I do this, you're gonna notice when I go back and just switch the contrast to this side, it's most likely a very similar effect because I made all of the shadows lighter and all of the highlights darker. But you can also go in the other direction and just basically do what a contrast would do. So yeah, those are a couple of things that you can really use to kind of tweak the image if some of those things are not working for you. But what I'd love to focus on when it comes to this lesson is duplicating this one and just kind of going over a couple of times. I do suggest duplicating anytime when you're making some kind of a change to your design. Duplicate it. It's going to be a really nice habit. So this is going to be the original one, and in here I want to show you what happens if we overlay this photo with some kind of a color like this one, and then use the blending effects to do some effects. So the ones that you would probably use the most is multiply, which makes applies an effect to all of the darker tones. It's making them a little bit darker with the color that you chose. Screen is going to make all of the elements lighter, so the darkest ones are basically just going to be this color, while all of the lighter ones are going to stay lighter. In here you can see that all of the darker tones stayed dark, but all of the lighter ones just became this color. These are just kind of variations on it, so you can play around with dark and multiply and color burn. Generally they're going to make your photo darker and kind of overlaid with this color, while lighten is just going to make some effects to the lighter tones like this, and some of them are more or less vibrant. It's up to you to choose. When it comes to these effects, overlay basically means it's going to take all of the darker tones and make them even darker, and all of the lighter tones and make them even lighter. Soft light is a little bit of a less noticeable effect that does the same thing. Difference and exclusion I've never used. I really don't know where I would use those. You can see what kind of weird effects they might do. They're really out there. Hard light is a little bit working more like a combination of something like darken and overlay. Again, you don't have to know everything about them, just know that they're in here, and you can always play around when you're looking for a particular effect. I'm just saying that most likely I'm going to use either multiply screen, overlay, or soft light, and then hue, saturation, color, and luminosity based on what I need. When it comes to the hue, it's just going to make some tones, so not all of these darker ones grab a pop of that red color that we used, while color is going to color everything. And then you can play around with opacity and things like that to maybe get to the point where you're really happy with the effect. I'm going to put it at 100% once again just to show you what luminosity does. And luminosity is going to be is going to work well if you're using it on an actual image, and that image is on a white, gray, or black background, because if we make this image luminosity, you can see it's gonna turn black and white basically. So let's go back, have some kind of a feel like this. Again, it's not the exact hex, but we're close. And we can go into the blending options in here, and the other one is saturation in here. So those are all of the effects that you're most likely going to use. Now, what is really fun is that you can go in here and kind of use multiply on the red ones, for example, and then go in here, go to something like cyan, make it 100%, and use it on all of the screen ones. And maybe it's going to be like 50-50. So you can see that all of these ones, it's kind of making a really nice effect on the photo. Another thing that you may do is also just overlay the photo with a fill like this, and that's going to be some kind of color that you want to use. And in here then you can use the layer effects in here, because it's going to basically overlay the entire image. And let's do something wilder like cyan, and place it on darken, and place this one on lighten or screen or color dodge, or maybe like yeah, it's now really coming through. So I'm guessing that the lighter one needs to be on top for it to really be visible. But yeah, you can play around with this and kind of create different effects based on what you're looking forward to making. And in here we have some kind of a duotone effect, so you can see that's also really nice. So I've used screen and color on this. So yeah, you're not limited to just how your photo is when you're using it in your UI. You can use these blending effects to get it to a point where you want to. So hopefully this was helpful. I know that I ended up making all of the changes in this one image, but basically I just wanted to show you all of the different ways that you can use blending tools. You're not going to use them on all of the projects. Most likely you're not going to use this a lot, but when it's needed, think of it and know that you can do it, because it can really make a difference when it comes to the branding of your product.